My name is Corey, and I did an internship with Provo's Center for Women and Children in Crisis. Just to give you a background, it's in Provo and Orem area. You do travel a little bit because the women's shelters are throughout different areas. But by traveling, I mean it's still like right near where the BYU campus is, and everything. If BYU campus is the center, everything is within 15-20 minutes from the BYU campus. My internship lasted about 8 weeks, but it can go all the way, it can fill up the entire semester. It's totally up to you. They're really flexible, but I was traveling, so they allowed me to shorten mine and do more per week. Your duties, you can totally customize them. So the center offers a ton of different things. You can do domestic violence, rape crisis, victim advocacy, therapy, just so much. So you can kind of pick, but I started in domestic violence and moved to rape crisis. So like I said, here's just a little overview of what the Center for Women and Children in Crisis offers. They offer, first off, working with social services and government aids. You learn a lot about nonprofit work. You learn a lot about documentation to get grants for nonprofit work. You learn a ton of stuff with that, which is really, really helpful. The internship is unpaid, but you get to learn about how they get their money and things like that. You can work with rape crisis, which I highly, highly recommend. Domestic violence, victim advocacy. You work with victim advocates, which are just people who just help people in court, just are there to support them. A lot of times they are women, and that are victims of abuse and things and don't want to have to face their abusers in court. So you get to learn what that job is. The state hires victim advocates, and so you get to learn how that job comes about and things like that. And also, if you're into therapy, they have marriage and family therapists, clinical therapists, recreational therapy, so much, and you get to work with them, and that was really interesting. So you get to do all of these, but you can pick one to really develop. So how did I find it? I knew I wanted to work in a women's shelter, so I Googled Provo women's shelters. I called, and then I just showed up to one of their events, and I found one of the people in charge. I introduced myself. I was dressed professionally. I had a resume in case they were interested, and I just talked to them a little bit. They said they had internships available. I had my resume on me, and I just said, well, here's my resume. I would love to hear about you. She gave me her card, and then we corresponded over a couple months. I did this in April when I knew my internship would start in September. So I talked to her over the summer, did a phone interview, and that's how I got that job. What are your responsibilities? So, like I said, you can kind of pick what area you want to go into. But because of my background in teaching classes and teaching at church and all different sorts of stuff, they started me off teaching a state-designed curriculum. So it's the Utah DATE program, which has just information on how to tell if you're being abusive, how to tell if you're being abused, proper boundaries. It's a really good curriculum, and you teach this to women's shelters, and you get to meet the women, and they open up about their stories, and you get to use those papers to help them, which was really awesome. And you get to teach at men's programs, which was my favorite, and also in public and private schools and juvenile delinquent centers. You get to teach in a variety of areas, which was really, really beneficial. This has helped me on my resume a lot because all the jobs I've worked with so far, I have so many things put on because of this internship. But like I said, I wanted to move into rape crisis, so I took the rape crisis training. And the rape crisis training is a total of 40 hours over 2 weeks. 3 days a week from 6 to 10 you go, and then it's 2 Saturdays. And besides those 2 Saturdays, I didn't work a single Saturday my entire semester. So it's a really awesome, and I cannot stress how amazing this training is. This training was fantastic. During training, you are background checked and fingerprinted. You meet with nurses and you learn about the CODAR exam that people who are raped, when they go to the hospital, it's a head-to-toe exam to kind of swipe for DNA and get evidence if they do decide to try and make a case in the future. And so you meet nurses, you learn about that. You get to go into the hospitals and see where it happens, and that's where you'll end up going with the girls and with the men that are raped, and you meet them at the hospital and stay with them during those exams. You also meet with therapists, and they teach you how to kind of understand rape situations, how to empathize, and how to show support in a way that helps the victims. You meet with police. The BYU, they have a rape crisis team at BYU. So you learn about, and they're police officials, so it's not, you can't volunteer there, but you learn what they do and how they help the students. And you also train in how to respond to calls. So after you complete this training, you'll sign up for 48-hour shifts. So you can sign up for like a Monday and Tuesday or something like that. And during that, you will have the backpack, the rape crisis backpack, and a cell phone, and you're in pairs, so you're not with the other person unless there's a phone call, but there's 2 people signed up at all times for every day. And you both have your backpacks, you both have your cell phones. There's a secondary and a primary. And you just take rape calls. So far I've only gotten a few calls, so you can go 4 months without having a call, or sometimes you'll have 3 calls in a day. So it all depends, but if you'll have a cell phone, they'll call. I was just raped. You get information. You meet them at the hospital. You provide emotional and physical support to these individuals. And as well as you can also get a call. Yes, I was raped 10 years ago. Just want to tell somebody their story. They just want to express what had happened, and you can just be there and listen and talk to them. So you have all different types of cases, and in the backpack that you carry around with you, it has sweatshirts and snacks and hairbrushes, things like that, to help the victim in any situation that they may need it. So how do you benefit them? The Lord asks us to weep with those who weep and to mourn with those who mourn. And I cannot tell you how true that is in this job. It is very real. When you walk into these hospitals and you meet these complete strangers, you are giving them every ounce of love you can possibly imagine. And it is the worst day of their life, and these terrible, sick things are happening. But here are 2 individuals that, even at 2 o'clock in the morning, showed up and said, I'm here. I will be here until you tell me to go away. I am here to love you. I'm here to make sure that you feel safe. And we handled paperwork for them. We make sure that everything that's happening with them is as easy as possible. And we help with family members. We help all sorts of things. It's extremely beautiful. It is the biggest act of devotion to a stranger I've ever seen, and I feel like that is Christ's journey, and I feel like this internship really is in line with that. So that's why I just really recommend this internship. How does your coursework tie in? Lifespan development was probably the most influential class I took for this major, which is a little weird, but in lifespan development you learn about the different stages of life, and you learn about what is important to them. So you have different stages of life for these victims. You may have a 14-year-old girl who was raped by her soccer coach. So she is 14. She is an adolescent. She's worried about social pressures. She's worried about what will her parents see her, how will she relate to other people, how will her friendships change, these sort of things. And so you can kind of anticipate these things, especially as they talk, and you can direct what you know about that life stage, direct what you know, and help them cope with that. Or let's say it's an elderly woman, that as these things are, these things do happen, and they depend more on sharing things, on intimacy. Friendship is about companionship and being really close and trusting, and you can definitely have that in those conversations you have with them. Emphasize how much you care for them. So using that lifespan development class and now knowing different life stages helps you adapt your support for these people, as well as family stress and coping. That's a basic. You work with a lot of families who show up at the hospital for the victims. You can tell them things you know, um, talk through things, let them know that families can make it through this, recommend therapy, things like that. So would I recommend this internship? Yes, I think it's the best one. Um, the people you work with are volunteers, so no one's getting paid here. All those people that you work with are there because they are full of love, and it's really, really beautiful. And plus, when you're sitting in a hospital during these really traumatic situations with these people for 4 hours at 4 o'clock in the morning, you get really close, and it's just, you make really deep relationships with really good people. You learn about nonprofit work, you learn about victim advocacy, but you also develop your testimony in Christ, and you learn how to love people. Your eyes will definitely be opened in these situations. Your eyes are totally opened to brotherly kindness and loving children of God. So I highly recommend this. And as for contacts, just go to cwcic.org, and they have different tabs for jobs, volunteering, contacting, things like that. Soraya who really helped me, and she's awesome. So there you go.